to another episode of Dawkins on Duke. This week we got my brother Ala Abdunabi, class of 1990, I believe. Had a really fun conversation, man. He's one of the most fun dudes that Duke's ever produced. So I hope you enjoy that one. And as always, make sure you comment and subscribe to our podcast wherever you get your podcast. If you like to watch the clips, we also have a YouTube channel called The Field of 68. So go over there and subscribe. It's where we post all the clips from my podcast and the rest of our podcasts on the network. So make sure you go check that out and subscribe. But yeah, enjoy, and I'll see you on the next one. Okay, so this week we got my guy Ala Abdunabi. What's going on, man?
What's up, Dre? How are you, pal?
I'm good. Appreciate you spending some time with me this week.
It's good to connect with you, man, especially since I watched you play and was a big fan, so now I get to spend some time.
Man, I appreciate that. I love the shirt, by the way.
Yeah, my man. So that is right. The greatest for real.
Yeah, for sure, no doubt. All right, so we start the podcast off the same way every week. We got to get your welcome to Duke moment.
Wow, my welcome to Duke moment. There's so many of them, man. But
yeah.
I would probably have to say when I came on campus for my recruiting visit, and it was a blue-white scrimmage weekend.
Okay.
You're familiar with, but for those who aren't, it's when half the squad plays the other half of the squad. Yeah. Usually there's a football game in the afternoon, and then everybody heads over to Cameron to watch that year's edition of the team. So
did people go to the football? Because when I got there, no one was going to football.
No. It's funny because we actually had a picnic at Coach's house, and it was during the football game.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, why isn't anybody headed over to the game? Because that's what I would have wanted to do.
Right.
And I'm looking for a ride. But someone take me over, and they're like, man, you don't want to go over.
No, you don't want to go.
You don't want to. But they were like 0-11, football changed a little when I was there. But anyway, getting back to the story. So we stayed at the picnic, and then we hit to Cameron for the blue-white. And, it's I don't know if you remember what your recruiting trip was like, because I don't know if they played, but it's like I spent all this time with Coach all day, the day before that Friday. And then once he had to go to work, like he left.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because he was all about the work.
Yeah.
And I'm just learning all this, all new to me.
Yeah.
And I'm expecting him, to like kind of just be, and his face changed, and he got all serious, and the eyes got small and get real small, and he kind of changed, and then that's when they passed me off to Mrs. K and Debbie at the time, and then so what happened was we walked into Cameron before the game. And Cameron, it's jumping, and kids are throwing tennis balls from side to side, and it's just buzzing. And I'm walking across the court, and nobody's acknowledging anything. I'm just blending in because it's real hectic pregame. And when I got to my seat behind the bench, the crowd just started yelling "Hello" one side and "Allah" the other side, and I heard it, but there was no. I didn't absorb it.
Yeah.
I'm thinking to myself, man, that's something else going on. There's no way that could possibly have to do with me.
Yeah.
And Mrs. K looked at me. Her eyes got big, and she goes, "If you don't wave to him, they'll never stop."
Yeah.
And I just remember thinking, like, I want to crawl into a hole. I don't want to stand up.
Yeah.
Where's the last thing I want to do?
Yeah.
But I realized while I was sitting there deliberating, it was getting louder. And, it getting quicker.
Yeah.
So I'm just thinking, let me just stop these guys before somebody has a heart attack. And I got up and I waved in the place. They clap after that.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, this place is different, man. This place is different, but in a really, really good way.
Yeah, I had a similar story. I went on a recruiting visit, same thing before a game. I was just hanging out with Nate. I think so on the sideline, my guys were warming up, and it was one of my first games there. So I don't know. And so they do the same thing. Andre Dawkins, blah blah blah, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. And I don't I don't do anything.
Right.
And and they just go and go and go. And Nate looks at me like, dude, you gonna wave? And I'm like, oh, I didn't know I was supposed to acknowledge it. I don't know. I just got here.
Yeah, they're part of the show, man. You need to acknowledge them.
Absolutely. Yeah, I learned quick, and so that was always fun, man. Coming out for warm-ups while I was there, and they would go through the whole team, and so you get a little wave, but you gotta. It's like a happy medium. You gotta let them go for a little bit, but you don't let them go for too long. You don't want to wave on the first one. Let it build up a little bit. Yeah, a little bit.
You don't know how many more times it's gonna happen, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. There's a finite number, man. It's a finite number.
If you go to Virginia, it's never gonna happen again.
Nah. So you were born in Egypt, moved to Jersey when you were young. Do you remember Egypt at all before you moved?
I don't remember it before I moved. I hear stories and I can recall feelings, but I don't remember anything specifically. But fortunately for me, like, we've gone back a lot. Growing up. So in my whole childhood, we went back. My sister and brother, who were younger than me, they were born there too. Mm-hmm. So mom just had a thing about us being born back in Egypt. So we went back a lot. So today I've got my own apartment. We're from Alexandria, which is on the coast. Okay. So we like to think of ourselves as beachheads because we're right on the Mediterranean. So for me, I still go back because I got a place there. And everybody outside of my mom, dad, and sister and brother, and now their families, everybody else is still in Egypt. So if I want to go back and see any kind of kinfolk, I got to go back home. So I'm still familiar, but the childhood memories are kind of vague. I'm sure. What are like some of the things you remember growing up, being in Jersey, that your parents did to kind of bring that culture from Egypt over into the house? Everything. Literally everything. From when I walked in the house, it was like living two lives. That's how I felt at times. And I've talked to other immigrant kids who are first generation, and it's the same thing. You're like living a double life. Yeah. Because at school, you're one way, with your friends and your teachers and the administrators and everything. But the moment I walked in that door, it was like going into a whole nother world. And I was used to it, but I used to trip off of my friends. They would come walking in the house with me. Because to me, the house smelled normal. But to them, it was funky. You know what I mean? Because they didn't eat what we ate. It was like living two lives. But my parents, because they were very proud of where they came from. And very nationalistic. You got to remember, Egypt too, back then had gone through like 3 wars, with Israel, 48, 56. Well, 56 is not really with just Israel, but then 67 and 73. So, the We Love Our Country thing was real strong because it was all at risk a lot of the time. I grew up with that. Hey, listen, we're here, but don't forget where you come from. Absolutely. And to this day, I've gotten jobs because I can speak Arabic, which I would never have gotten if it wasn't for my mom and dad insisting on it. My sister and brother and I, when we talk, we'd speak in English, but we all speak fluent Arabic because of them. But we're more Americanized, so absolutely, English is more natural to us. But to this day, like I hung up with her half hour ago, it's all Arabic. to this day, and today's my dad's birthday, so it was all Arabic today. So it's I'm grateful for it. But Andre, when I was young, all you want to do when you're young is fit in. Right. Absolutely. You want to wear the same clothes, listen to the same music, all of that stuff. And I had this big, huge sign on my head that said different. And it motivated me, because I wanted to be part of it so bad, and I felt like an outsider for so long. And basketball kind of bridged that gap for me. Because when you can hoop, People love you
You
just
cool,
you
yeah. Automatically with the cool
you're
kids.
cool, man. You're cool. And even though you
Absolutely.
might not be,
Yeah, for sure. No,
you know?
I know the feeling. I know the feeling for sure.
So
'Cause,
yeah,
yeah.
that was it for me. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. No, I know the feeling for sure. Cause me, I was in the books and studying and stuff like that, keep my grades up. So, you take away basketball, I'm just another nerd in the school. Like
I hear you, man. I
so
hear you.
basketball automatically I was kind of cool. So yeah,
I
it
just
worked.
remember the first time in high school being in the hallways and my name and my picture was in the town paper, not even like a major paper, just the town paper. And there were girls at my locker room that morning.
Oh yeah.
And I just remember thinking like, oh, now y'all want to be
Uh-huh.
here. Like, now I'm good looking. You know what I mean? Yesterday I was the same.
No, yeah, same dude, but now you're in the paper though, so it's a little different.
Exactly.
Well, you learned a lesson early then.
Absolutely.
You learned a good lesson early.
Absolutely. People around you change, not you necessarily.
Right. Um, so you went from Egypt, grew up in Jersey, and then how do you get down to Durham?
Coach.
That seems to be the answer everybody gives.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing about it was I had no idea where I wanted to go.
Mm-hmm.
All I knew was I wanted to hoop. I didn't know I didn't have dreams, like specific dreams. I knew I wanted to play as long as you'd let me, and I figured that would have to be the NBA. So Every one of us in the back of their mind has the NBA, but more importantly, like I had no clue like about the college landscape. Mm-hmm. Like I knew what I watched, but I didn't know coaches and personalities, because up until I got good, I really wasn't part of that world. Mm-hmm. So now all of a sudden you get thrust in it, you get a whole bunch of characters.
Oh yeah.
Run into, you know what I mean? All kinds of people, good and bad, loud and quiet, and every other kind of variety. Coach just stood out for me because he talked to me like my pops did. Mm-hmm. He didn't promise the world. Mm-hmm. You had coaches, I'm sure, come to you and say, as soon as you come in, you're going to get 30 minutes, and you're thinking, well, that sounds great. But then I remember Coach telling me, could you imagine if I promised your minutes to Christian Laettner? Mm-hmm. You've been working for me for 2-3 years, right? And this kid comes in out of high school, and I'm going to give him your minutes right off the bat. That wouldn't be fair to you, right? So when he would talk to me, he would kick it to me like my dad, and that's what I appreciate. That's what made him stand out. Then you get down to campus and you realize the culture down there. You see Duke, first of all, how beautiful it is. Yeah, absolutely. I always joked about it when I first saw campus, like, oh, I could read a book underneath that tree one day. Never did for 4 years, but it didn't matter. The option was available.
Right. I could have.
Exactly. If I wanted to. So you combine all that, and I'll tell you something, man. I hate saying this because I don't want it to sound bad, but a Northerner is afraid of the South, mm-hmm. in some way, shape, or form, especially a Northerner of color. With a funky name and all kinds of things going against me. Yeah. So I really had to. That just shows you how much I love Duke, because the surrounding area. If you would have put Duke elsewhere, it would have been a no-brainer. But I had to think about it because outside of campus is the real world. Yeah. That real world. That real world was foreign to me. Mm-hmm. I grew up. We're in northern New Jersey. There's diversity left and right. Yeah, it's a melting pot. Yeah. It's a melting pot. We're used to seeing all kinds, and I've never really had anybody dress me down because of the way I looked. Right. So that was an adjustment, but at the same time, Coach, the way he kicked it to me, Duke and the whole package, it being an elite school, Andre, too. You know what I mean? Like, people look at you and me differently because of that Duke education. Mm-hmm. Than going elsewhere. Mm-hmm. And that's another reason why we chose there, is because you get the best of both worlds. It sounds like a cliche, but it really is. But it's true. But it's true. It's true. Yeah, that's for sure. That's definitely true. It's funny when people say, oh, hey, where'd you go to school? I went to Duke, and you get like a little like, Always.
How'd you do that?
Oh, exactly. Because you know what they know what it means.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they know what it means, and they know it's a small club.
Yep.
And not everybody gets invited.
Yep.
The thing I take most pride in is, one, of course, being in a group with guys like you, but also kind of recognize and coach early, you know?
Yeah.
Before guys like you. I'm not, no.
No. For me, 20 years later, that's easy.
Exactly.
That's no problem. You
right.
know, like
Duke wasn't Duke then.
Right.
You had Carolina that won in 82. NC State had won in 83. And here I am. He's recruiting me in 84.
Right.
And I'm thinking, well, you know, Jim Valvano's calling.
Mm-hmm.
Dean's calling. But why do I still keep going back to this dude?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then you realize, you know, it's because of the way he is, because of how he goes about his business, and he made me better. And they could have helped too.
Yeah.
But my guy helped. He took the time to help me as much as possible, and at the same time taught me how to help myself.
Yeah. So when I was being recruited, obviously, you know, a bunch of schools calling and stuff, and you know, I allowed schools to recruit me and go to visits and go to games and stuff. But I always knew as soon as I get that offer, I'm going to Duke. So, like, did you – because it's funny because people ask me, you know, who was your last couple schools? And I'm like, it was Duke. Like, you know, like did I have schools that I like? Yeah, like I liked Maryland. I liked Wake.
Sure.
You know, Florida was interesting, but it was always like, as soon as they say the word, I'm gone. Did you feel that same way, or did you actually have to like make a decision with your last few schools?
I had to make a decision because back then, like I said, Duke wasn't Duke.
Right.
They hadn't even gone to the Final Four yet. That was my senior year in high school after I already chose them.
Mm-hmm.
So after I committed. So even when I committed, they hadn't really done what we know about Duke basketball. Right. You know, that was the first Final Four in Dallas when they lost to Louisville. And so I had Villanova. And you got to remember, Dre, I was on campus that Wednesday after they beat Georgetown that Monday.
Oh, wow.
So you're riding around with Ed and Harold Preston.
How'd you get out of there without committing, man?
You know what I mean? And then we went from there to having pasta dinner at Raleigh's house. And I'm thinking, man, this is it.
It's pretty nice.
This is pretty darn good. And then Georgia Tech with Bobby Crimmins. Bobby was good, man. Bobby to this day is still one of my guys. Excuse me. Oh man. Sorry about that.
Are you all right?
Sorry about that. But what Bobby did was he came up one day after I called him and told him I was hurt. I had twisted my back or something. So the doc said I needed a day off, and he was coming in that next day. So I called him up and I said, hey, listen, I'm not going to be able to practice. You may not want to come, waste your time. And I'm thinking like a kid. He's thinking, well, he's going to be on the sideline all day.
Mm-hmm.
So
I get to talk to him all day.
Right? So he came up and was like this. I don't know if it was legal or what. But
shoot, for him, it's probably better that way.
Exactly. He was like, hurt? Cool, I'll get an earlier flight. So by the end of that day, I remember walking home going, ooh, and you got to remember Tech back then had Mark Price. They were so good.
Yep.
They had John Sally, young Dwayne Farrell. They were good. And that was another one that was in contention. But overall, what separated them all was just coach. It was just coach. You know, those were all good schools. I thought at the time I wanted to be an engineer because my dad's an engineer. Mm-hmm. So Tech would have been good for that. But you know, things happen the way they're supposed to happen.
For sure, yeah. It's that time of year again, folks. Conference tournaments are tipping off. Bubble teams are making their final push for a bid, while the best teams in the country are gearing up for a deep run. Auto bids will be punched, slippers will be fit, and our partners at DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook, are putting our listeners at the center of the action. If you bet $4 on an underdog in a select game this week and that underdog wins, you win $256. That's right, $256. Here's how it works. Download the app now and use the promo code FIELD68 when you sign up. Scroll through the list of select underdogs, bet $4 on them to win, and cash $256 when they do. There is no better way for you to put your college hoops knowledge to use than to put your money where your mouth is with DraftKings Sportsbook. It's safe, it's secure, it's reliable, and you can deposit and withdraw your funds at your convenience. So remember, that's code FIELD68, that's FIELD 68, to turn $4 into $256. For a limited time only, must be 21 years or older. Restrictions apply. Go to DraftKings.com for details. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. So coming in as a freshman, did you have any expectations and, what to expect, or are you just kind of like wide-eyed? I don't know. Let's see what happens.
No, I was scared out of my mind, man. I was because I every step of the way, I knew, like, I went to Duke summer camp, and you know what those summer camps are like. At the end of at night they have scrimmages.
Yep.
And they put me in with the current squad, and I think I was in 11th grade.
Yeah.
The summer between 11 and 12, and I remember Dan Mahar just absolutely beat me up for the whole scrimmage. He didn't try to do anything else but just give me the wood. And I think I was 6'10", 205, 210. And I just remember thinking, I want to go there. I hope everything goes well, but I don't know how I'm going to adjust, because I knew for a big guy, the physicality is part of it. Mm-hmm. And I remember going to the Big East Finals against Syracuse and Georgetown at Madison Square Garden, sitting underneath the basket and watching Ralph Dalton and Patrick Ewing go up against Cycli. And I remember thinking to myself, there's no way I'm ever going to be that big. There's no way I'm going to ever be able to hang, because it was the Big East back then. It was WWF. It was, you know what it was like. It was grabbing and holding.
Oh, yeah.
I'm thinking, how am I going to make that leap? So when I first got there, my expectation level was pretty low, because I just wanted to not stand out for any bad reason.
Right.
You know what I mean? I didn't want to be called out on anything bad.
It's interesting, because I feel like, in high school you watch college basketball and stuff, and you say, okay, they're just playing basketball. It's this, I play basketball. It's all the same. But then you get there and you get hit the first time. You're like, wait a minute.
How about all the stuff you have to remember?
Oh, man, yeah.
And then when you're tired and you're trying to remember. Remember at the end of practices?
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking, my head's spinning. I remember if you took a picture of me, my head would explode, because the wires are just starting to fire. And it's that trial by fire or under fire, whatever the term is, that makes you better, right?
Yeah. For sure.
You don't feel it at the time. You feel like you're grounded. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when you get through that, remember, by the time you started getting comfortable there, games were the fun part.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? You were. It was the opposite for me at first. It was practices were, but then you get there, you're like, no, these practices are no fun.
No. Yeah, don't like practice. Don't like practice at all.
Yeah, remember that walk to Cameron, man? That walk to Cameron across that parking lot, man?
Oh yeah,
walking to your death.
Oh yeah. Especially especially as a freshman, man, because freshmen, you're off on East Campus. You don't have a car, so you got to get on the bus and ride over, and the whole time you're like, oh man, how am I gonna get through this practice? I barely made it yesterday. How am I gonna get through today?
It's true, man. It's true.
We got 50 plays that we gotta know, and we only run 4 of them, but you gotta know all 50 in practice. And then the thing that was tough for me was when you get tired. And, it's a completely different level of tired. You don't feel that kind of tired in high school. So you have no idea how fatigued you're going to be in practice, especially like pre-ACC practices. And you still have to be able to talk and communicate with guys. And that's like the hardest thing, because you're like, I just want to take a breath.
Right.
And like
in your mind, you're thinking, oh my God.
Yeah.
You're not thinking about plays and where to be and talking to your teammate. You're like, I hope I don't pass out. I hope I don't pass. Yeah.
I'm just trying to survive. How much time has passed? How much time do we have left? When's he going to let us get some water next? Everything but basketball is what you're thinking about.
But let me ask you this. How empowering was it for you when you left to know I could do almost anything?
Yeah, it was interesting because like I went from Duke to the Heat, to Miami Heat, and I went to training camp with them, and I had heard from people like, oh, Miami, it's gonna be tough, like
right.
They're tough, it's tough. And I got there, and like, don't get me wrong, it was tough, but it was like home. I was like, oh yeah, this is
what we do.
Yeah, this is Duke in a red and black jersey, like this is the same thing, like so.
My first practice my rookie year, I'm in Portland. Clyde Drexler, Terry Porter, Buck Williams, all these gods. And I remember we went. It was old school. We went back and we lived in dorms.
Mm-hmm.
So we went down to, I think it was Oregon State, and we like slept in the dorms and we practiced. And so I remember getting to the gym around 11. We got our practice, and practices were hard because the trailblazer, we ran.
Mm-hmm.
So every drill was full court.
Yep.
So you didn't do half court drills. You'd rebound it, throw it off the board, rebound it, and go do it down the other end, and then come back and do it one more time. That's how we did the whole practice for my whole time there. And that was difficult, but not impossible.
Right.
I mean, there wasn't a lot of banging. We just went 5-on-0, 5-on-5 sometimes, but that was the running was what made it different. But I remember after the first practice was over, everybody got together. We huddled up, 1, 2, 3, win. And then guys just broke. You know how the pros are, right? They go 12 different directions. Yeah. Nobody had like, hey, man, you want to go grab something?
No.
Break. And I remember looking at one of the assistant coaches, Jack Shallow, and I saw Clyde put ice on. And then I saw Terry put ice on and Buck put ice on. And I remember thinking, like, are we done?
Yeah.
I don't want to be the stupid one.
Yeah.
I don't have the practice schedule either. I'm thinking, ain't no way we're done. Y'all paying us for this? Because 12 months ago, I was running through walls for nothing.
Oh yeah.
Now, and then the other capper was, I remember running to the wall where the practice schedule was. It was on the bleachers. And I remember I'm looking, I grabbed the paper, I'm flipping it over because there was no second practice. That was it. And I'm like, it's got to be on the other side. Just flip the paper over. Because there's no way we are done for the day. It's 1 o'clock, yo. What are we going to do?
Yeah.
But yeah, that was it.
Yeah. I remember sophomore year at Duke, because of I think it was Nolan. Nolan was a senior. He had to have a certain class, so we had to practice in the morning. So we practiced at like 6:30 in the morning.
Oh man!
Yeah, which was terrible.
Oh, that's awful.
But then you're like, oh man, that's terrible. I got to get up early. But then you're thinking like, oh, it's all good though, because practice will be over.
True.
And then I'll be done for the day.
True.
And then you realize you're not done for the day because you get a text or a call from somebody like, hey, you done with class? Why don't you head over back to the gym? You're like, no.
Because they got you. What else? Where are you going? You ain't going nowhere else.
Yeah. And they always ask you rhetorical questions like, oh, you done with class for the day? You know my schedule. You know I'm done with class for the day, man. You know I ain't got nothing else to do. So you take your trek back over to the gym.
It's so true. I always used to tell people, if I could get my 2 to 8 back, my 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. back, because I know I would have been a better student, but I also would have been more of a college student. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
We miss out on a lot.
Yeah.
Like, we went to 3 Final Fours, so we were going long every year, and then come right back and you got exams, and then you're done.
Yeah.
And so I remember thinking, man, I would just hear about what the other ones were doing, you know? Even if it was something small, like going to get a study group and kind of just brushing up on something, or going to the gardens and sitting under that tree we were talking about. You know, those are the things that I think I would have liked, but I wouldn't have traded it.
No, absolutely.
You know, I still did. I was where I needed to be.
Yeah.
But that other side of life always, you know, it kind of just appeals to you sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, I had my year where I wasn't playing for a season, and you know, I was still enrolled in everything, taking classes, and it was amazing because I was like, you know, I would get done with class at noon and be like, I have all day. Like, what do I do? Where do I start?
What was that like?
It was crazy because you don't realize, you know, I never realized until I didn't have, you know, all those other things, like how much time in the day I would have had, you know, had I not had practice and working out and lifting and conditioning,
treatment
and everything. And like what people don't realize is like, you know, some years we would have practice at like 3, right? So if you have practice at 3, you're there at like 2, practice at 3, practice for 2 hours, 3 hours, depending on the time of the year. So if you get done at 6 with your regular practice, then you have to do some kind of extra work. You know, if you're a young guy, you're doing extra work post practice. So there's another 30, 45 minutes. Then if you didn't lift yet, then you have to lift. So there's another 30, 45 minutes. Then you got to go get treatment. Then you're tired. So you go in the locker room and you just sit there for 30 minutes. So, you know, you say, oh, we practice at 3 and you don't leave the gym till 8 o'clock. And you're like, what happened?
Right. I remember this is, I always tell this to people when they try to describe to me what playing for Duke is like, because they all want to hear the good stuff. You know, they want to hear what it was like to play in front of the big crowds and, you know, whatever. But for me, I always try to explain to them the stuff you don't hear about.
Oh, yeah.
So, I remember having 2-a-days my senior year, and we lived in a house off campus, me and my roommate, Robert Bricky. And we had gotten Christian and Brian Davis we had in between the practices. So the first one's over, and we had about 2.5, 3 hours before we had to come back. And right next to where we lived was a Kentucky Fried Chicken. Mm-hmm. So we went and got a 4-piece of biscuit or something, each one of us. And when we were getting out of the car to walk back in the house, each one of us cramped up. Just right in the front lawn. And we just dropped right in the grass. You know, it just started, each one of us. So then by the time we walked through the door, we all sat down like old men. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like holding something and going down slowly. And I remember putting the food down, leaning back, and it was exhausting just doing that. And I remember looking at all of them going, second practice in 3 hours.
Oh, man, yeah.
Because that's where your head is. You're thinking, man, I can't even get out of this chair.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How am I going to be doing defensive slide in 3 hours in front of this madman? You know what I mean? But you do it.
Yep.
You do.
Yeah. I think that's one of the things that you kind of learn that I feel like has stayed with me, even post Duke, is like looking at something and saying, because I would do this a lot, looking at something and saying, man, there's no way I'm going to be able to do this. Like, you know, whether it was a lift, there's no way I'm going to be able to do this. Or going into practice, like you said, doing a 2-a-day, there's no way I'm going to be able to practice. No chance. But then, you know, you're nervous and you're like, oh, man, 3 hours, 2 hours, 1 hour. And then it's there and you're like, and you just do it.
Yeah, you just get through it.
And you get through it. And then you look back and you're like, man, I didn't think I could do that. And I ended up doing it. So and that kind of like was just something that was always in my head. Like, and I still do it today. I just say to myself before something, I'm not gonna be able to do this. And then like, it's kind of like, it's almost motivating. It's almost like I have my own naysayer in my head saying,
right.
You're not gonna be able to do this. And I'm like, oh, okay, watch this. And I'm gonna do it. So yeah, that's kind of something that stuck with me from Duke forever. So your freshman year, you didn't didn't see the court a ton, and I feel like culture nowadays is to just, take your ball and go home, go somewhere else, transfer them and go somewhere else where they're gonna put me on the court. What was it? Why stay and stick it out at Duke?
Because the perceived see, back then, it's not perceived that this way now, but back then it was perceived as quitting.
Yeah.
Not being able to hang. And that had a lot to do with it. Believe me, there were times when things didn't go well or as planned where I thought about it. I thought about it even up until my sophomore year. I remember there was a game in Kansas that we won, by the way. But he rode me for, whatever afterwards. And it didn't click in my head. I'll tell you the story too. So I'm on the bench. I'm not even in this story. I'm on the bench, and we're in Allen Fieldhouse, and he didn't notice it during the game. He apparently noticed it when he was watching tape later.
Yeah. That tape gets you, man. Tape gets you.
But here's the trick. I'm not on the court.
Yeah.
So what could he be mad about, since I'm not playing? But what happened was during a commercial timeout or something, they were coming to the bench, and for some reason, Andre, I was yawning. I just yawned. And ooh-wee.
I already know.
It's sore, and we won.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But that when there's teaching to be done, there's teaching to be done. The win or lose.
You didn't yawn no more, that's for sure.
Exactly. And so I just remember thinking, man, that's an involuntary act right there, man. nobody freaking, nobody can will a freaking yawn. What am I working with here, man? And do I want to continue to work with it?
It's a valid point.
Well, because what I'm saying is I'm a rational dude.
Yeah.
I've always been a rational dude, and stuff has to connect and make sense for me. And I think a lot of the times, him and I, especially at the beginning, I got him and I understand him now. We're cool now. But there were a lot of times when he'd walk away, after saying or doing something, and I'm in my mind, not out loud, man, what am I supposed to do with that? I don't know what to do with that. How do I? And I think part of it was me overthinking instead of just, taking the immediate, lesson or the immediate, hey, man, he's trying to, let a fire under my butt instead of analyzing, because that don't work either. And on the court, it definitely don't work.
No, yeah. I feel you. I'm the same way. I had to say, you gotta have to learn how to hear what he's not saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
In a way, you just got to learn how he talks.
And the thing is, I also learned that you don't ever want him to stop talking to you.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because
then it's bad.
That's the kiss of death.
Yeah.
That's when you transfer.
Yeah.
Because he's given up on you, or it appears.
Right.
You know what I mean? To the outside. I'm not saying I can't speak for him in his state of mind. What I'm saying is it appears to you. So yeah, think about that. You welcome the yelling and screaming.
Yeah. No, I used to tell my siblings that all the time, man. As long as good, bad, or otherwise, as long as that coach is still speaking to you, you're all right.
Yeah.
When he, man, he keeps yelling. When he stops, when you start messing up and he stops fussing at you, now it's a problem. That's a big problem.
Absolutely. And I'll be the first to admit, when I first got there, first of all, I could have played a lot better than I did. But I think a lot of it was just me, man. It was just me. I don't know if I wasn't just putting things in the right places. You know what I mean? A little tip of information, put that here for later. I think I was just trying to throw it all up in the air. You know what I mean? And that's a bad place to be. And so when I went out on the floor, man, I wasn't the same as by the time I left. That feeling, when I was a senior and even a junior at times, when you own the court, you belong out there. You know, like this is where I need to be. This is where I do my thing.
Yeah.
And I didn't have that at the beginning.
Yeah,
I was wandering, man. I was wandering, and that's why I was inconsistent.
Yeah. What do you think helped? Just looking at your progression from year to year, and you just got better and better and better till damn near doubled your scoring from junior to senior year. What do you think helped you have that steady improvement and then have that jump your senior year?
I think that's a good question. I think a couple things. I think the first thing is having the responsibility of being a senior, and having Christian be a sophomore, having Bobby Hurley come in as a freshman. And you know how important point guards are. You got to have your point guard up to speed with this. So Bobby being a Jersey guy like me, you know, I was in his dorm every night. You know, we went out. You know, if he needed something to eat. I took care of him. We took care of each other. Even when we were Sacramento Kings, you know, I'd take him to go get clothes, and I got him a maid because he was a damn slob. but the responsibility of worrying about those dudes stopped me from worrying about me. You know what I mean? Like there really is something to it, man. Like of giving of yourself.
Yeah.
How to get much more in return.
Absolutely.
You really do. And that senior year for me was a great example. Like the more I took care of Bob, the more I took care of Christian, the more they took care of me. You know?
Yeah.
And after seeing like Billy King, Kevin Strickland take their senior year class, my sophomore year, to the Final Four. And then seeing Danny and Quinn and John Smith take their class, my junior year, to the Final Four. Now it was my turn. What was I going to do? Yeah. And that's a really high bar to set, man. Like,
yeah, for sure.
You don't make it to the Final Four, you're relatively a failure. That's a whole lot there. Yeah, so yeah. I came into that season having Robert Brickey, Phil Henderson, my classmates, all seniors, and we just said, listen, man, we're going to bring these dudes along because we need them bad. Yeah. And it worked out. You know, it worked out. We got all the way to the championship game. It didn't work out that night. But it worked out up until then. It set the table for those guys moving forward. Yeah.
I think that's one of the more important lessons, and it's not just a basketball lesson, but it's a life lesson in general that I didn't figure out until maybe post Duke, was kind of what you said. Like even when you're down or you're tired and you're like, man, I don't have much, right. Just giving some of your energy to someone else or to your teammates brings you energy back in a way that I don't know. I know it doesn't sound like it makes sense, but it's true. It does. It's so true.
And it's not just that in basketball. Like, you know, I'm a Muslim, and so I give to Muslim charities. And every time, Andre, I give, like something good happens to me. Yeah. You know, whether it's something small or whether it's something big, like getting a new job, or, you know, like your investments might go up, or you know, any little thing, you know, that just something. So yeah, it never goes unnoticed. Yeah. And at the same time, you've helped somebody. So, you know, you've won one in all different ways, you know. Yeah. And to this day, me and Bob are close. Christian just texted me a couple days ago with his insane self. He's watching YouTube games. And he's talking about how bad, as in good, me and him were. and then he hung up. So I texted him back. I was like, are you done? Are we good? Like, that's all I had to say.
That's hilarious, man.
But those are the things that get built in those practices, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So while you were there, you guys went to 3 straight Final Fours in the midst of, I think, 5 in a row. Why were you guys so consistent when it came to the NCAA tournament? Because I was looking at you guys' record, and it wasn't like every year. It wasn't like, you know, you guys weren't 31 teams. But when it came to the tournament,
we had seasons where we lost 8-9 games.
Yeah, but then you guys get to the tournament and, you know, got to the Final Four 3 straight times.
I think part of it was how much fun we all thought the tournament was. Like, I'll give you an example. whenever we'd be on the road, sometimes you played on Thursday, but sometimes you played on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And all of us would get together and watch every minute of those Thursday games. And then we would just project like, tomorrow we're going to do this, and tomorrow wait until we get on the floor. We can, you know what I mean? Like, and it just seemed like it was a different time. You know, and we were able to just whatever like good we took from the regular season, we took that, but everything bad, we kind of just pushed that aside. Mm-hmm. And it was like a new season. So we just started by, hey, listen, let's just go get haircuts and ball out. Yeah. That's all, you know what I mean? Like it was as simple as that. But at the same time, I think Coach, the way he prepared us non-conference wise, the games we played, like that Final Four year when we played Kansas in the Final Four, we played Kansas in Allen Fieldhouse.
Mm-hmm.
So he has the foresight the season before to know who's going to be good, who will be good for us to play, and then he schedules it on the road because he wants us to play in a tough environment that gets you ready for stuff. And then you go to the NCAA Tournament, you're like, well, that noon game that you play as the number 1 seed, ain't nobody in the arena.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's empty and quiet, and you're like, this is what the NCAA Tournament was like. It felt like practice, when you'd open it up on Friday.
Yeah.
So, yeah, for me, it was just, I think a switch would go on. I could tell you that my senior year when we were leading that team, that's how I felt. My sophomore and junior year, I was just following, the crowd
mm-hmm.
and trying, to do what they did. But I could tell you this, I remember that ride going back to Durham after making it to the third one when we were seniors. And we're on that charter plane. And we sit in the front, and you know how the fans, I don't know if it was the same with you, but the fans would filter through and go sit in the back. So they'd all pass by us all. And, everybody giving me high fives, and everybody's happy. And I just remember leaning over to Robert Brickey, my senior fellow teammate, and I remember thinking, man, we're going again.
Yeah.
Like, people don't go once.
Yeah.
We all have friends of ours who went to other schools who, man, they make a big deal about just
going to the tournament. They throw a banner up for going to the tournament.
Yeah, like, man, how'd you do? We lost in the first round.
First round, we was out. We was a 12 seed, lost in the first round. Like
it was all, and they speak about it fondly.
Yeah,
they should, and they should.
Yeah.
But at the same time, to go 3. Man, it was
crazy.
almost like you were asking for too much. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, stop being greedy.
Yeah.
But it was a blast, man.
That's insane. So when I got there, when I got to Duke, by the time we got to the tournament and stuff, I don't know, Duke had become, well before I got there, but we were firmly entrenched in the love to hate us group.
With the Yankees.
Yeah. So was it like that when you guys were going, or people were kind of
starting?
Okay.
It was just starting. Like we were as hated. I'll say it this way: we weren't as hated as Carolina in the ACC. We weren't as hated as NC State in the ACC because those guys were on top. Like I said, in '82 and '83. But I could feel the hate growing.
Yeah.
Because when you send them all home upset on a regular basis, that's when the hate starts to build up.
Right.
They don't hate you if you're coming in and letting them step all over you.
Right, yeah.
You know what I mean? They love you. But like, we're coming back. Let's get one. Do we get, the ball boy to play? You know what I mean? So that was I guess the progression of it. But by the time I left, man, it was lovely. I hated it. I loved the hate.
Yeah.
I loved it. Because I felt, and you know what? It set me up for the pros because I felt like if I went somewhere and didn't get booed, I wasn't doing my job.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, you don't hate me enough. I have to give you a reason to,
Yeah.
So, yeah. And me and Christian, that was one of the things that I really relished about playing there with him was he was a nut job like I was.
Mm-hmm.
Like he had thin skin when it came to stuff. And he would let anything to get him upset.
Mm-hmm.
And in the middle of games, he would talk to me. He's like, you gonna let that happen? And I'm like, all right, big fella, we'll get him down the other. You know what I mean? Like, just he was He was the best teammate I ever had when people ask me, college or pro.
Mm-hmm.
He was the best because I knew he was in the foxhole with me, man, ready to throw down.
Yeah. I think it's I think that's one of the traits of like people who are great at things, especially in sports, is like they find reasons to be on point. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like I remember watching what was it? What is it called? The Jordan joint.
Last Dance.
Last Dance, yeah. I remember watching Last Dance, and Jordan, at one point, Jordan came up with this story that he told himself
about Bradford Smith.
Yeah, about this guy, and it had no bearing in reality.
Right.
Yeah, it's completely made up just so he could have something to be angry about. And like I feel like, kind of like you mentioned Christian doing that. I feel like Coach does that.
Oh
like,
yeah.
Coach definitely does. Like Coach will find disrespect out of anything. Hey, Coach, have a good day. He's like, motherfucker told me to have a good day. Like, oh, we gonna kill these.
Exactly.
Yeah, because I remember, we went down to Florida State. We're going down to Florida State. They're really good. I think it was my junior year. Yeah, it was my junior year. Austin was there. Went down to Florida State. They're really good. And we go to warm up, do your early warm up stretches and stuff, come back in, whatever. And then our last one, we came in before we went out to play. He's like, normally he does like the matchups and stuff, and the last little prep. We're gonna be doing this, and he didn't do none of that. And he's like, you know what they told me? They told me, security guy told me that we're gonna be walking off of this side of the court after we lose because they're gonna storm the court. And he was so mad, like he was pissed. He was like, yeah. I don't know about y'all, but how I grew up, I walk out the same door I came in at. And so like, he goes through all that. And he's like, I'm not gonna repeat all the words he said, but basically by the end of it, we're all like,
yeah, exactly. We're going out that way.
Yeah. We're going out that fucking door. And
I remember my senior year, Christian sophomore year. We were roommates on the road, and we are in Denver for the Final Four, and we're playing Arkansas, and they had Oliver Miller, along with Todd Day, Lee Mayberry. They were loaded, and Oliver. It's a long week, that week leading up to the first games of to the Final Four games, because you start on Saturday and Monday. It's not Thursday and Friday. So there's a lot of cameras and microphones in your face all week long. And I remember Coach would tell us, be careful what you say, be careful what you say. Have respect for your opponents. You know what I mean? Don't give them anything to put on the bulletin board. And Oliver Miller, I guess he was just joking because he's a fun-loving guy. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. And he said, it's funny. He said he was going to eat me and Christian up like the hamburgers he has at lunch in the cafeteria. Right? So exactly like that. Like I laughed, right? But here's the thing. Christian didn't laugh.
Yeah. Christian went
and got the paper. And came back to the room and goes, have you seen this? And his voice got real high. And I go, yeah, man. Yeah, I saw it. I saw it. I think it's funny. He goes, funny. He got all mad. He goes, we got to kill this dude. And I said, Late, just calm down. It's Tuesday, man.
Yeah, we got a long time.
We got a long time, man. Just chill. We'll get him. And we wound up winning by a lot, and there was a stop action. We're at the free throw line, and they must have been shooting because me and Late are at the bottom slots, and Oliver is next to Late, and I forget who was next to me, and we just start chirping a little, right? And I remember saying to him, "Look at the scoreboard, man. Just look at the scoreboard. We ain't gotta say nothing else." And let me know how Arkansas is in the spring, bro. Holla at me when you go back, and is it muddy roads, whatever. Yeah. And so the referee says to me, 30, stop talking. And Christian goes to the referee, but you didn't read the article, Mr. Official. He said you was going to eat. He was still
in his
head, man. And that's the kind of person I want to go to war with. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Like, even the slightest thing. God, for 4 days, this dude was in my ear because we see how the road is. They're next to each other and be like, yo, you got to go to bed, dude. You can't be talking about Oliver Miller like this.
Yeah, that's hilarious, man. Yeah, like, Laettner doesn't seem like a guy you really want to poke. Like, it's certain guys, you know, you can kind of chirp at, and there's certain guys you want to just leave alone. Like, it's because it's already bad. You know, he's already good enough that he's probably going to give you some work.
Right.
And you also don't want him to be angry and give you some more work on top of the work he was already going to hand out.
Because he plays better when he's angry. Some people don't.
Yeah, that's the kind of guy. Some guys, you know, you do want to get in their head and try and like rustle them out of their game. And there's some guys you want to just be real nice to. Hey man, good shot, late. Man. Yeah, good work, dude. Yeah, man, that was a good move. You got me down there, dude. Just be real nice. Keep them, you know what I mean? Like, you got to know your customers.
Absolutely, man. You got to know what you're working with.
For sure. So your senior year, get to the national championship game, going against UNLV. A lot of hype behind them. What was that? What was it like, you know, the Sunday and the Monday getting ready for that game, and what were you guys feeling?
We're feeling like we had a chance, man.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, even that Sunday, you know, Bob was okay. Like, Bob wasn't sick. You know, we thought we'd be able to field a decent starting five that had been playing pretty well. And, you know, then the game starts. And I still am kind of like not sure about his condition. I really wasn't sure that he was that sick. And I remember, like, it was a close game at the beginning. And I remember, you know how we get in the huddles during, like, stop actions and free throws and stuff. So we're huddling up. And I remember looking over the crowd, and I see Bob running, like, through the crowd and back in the tunnel. And I'm like, well, that's our point guard, man. He is not supposed to be going in that direction. He's supposed to be going here. And then I find out he's not well, but he comes back because he's a trooper. And the rest of the game, Dre, to be honest with you, man, is one big blur. Because for me, what I remember is trying to run past half court and then having to run back the other way. You know, because that's what they were doing. That amoeba defense, we didn't even – I only took 7 shots, you know, that night because we couldn't really get the ball past half court. And the thing about it is 2 weeks earlier, a week earlier, we were playing Connecticut. And they were #1 team in the country, and all they did was press. And we ate that press alive. I had like 4 dunks, just was standing in the back like this, you know what I mean? Because we would break it down and dribble through it, get to the last guy, little bounce pass, dunk, let's go down the other end. You want to keep pressing us? Let's keep doing this. So we had tore it apart, and we didn't think that watching what UNLV was doing on film was like impossible to overcome. You know, if we had Bob out there at full strength, that's and I hate using that as an excuse, but it's the truth. You know, like if you at the last minute said, hey, Tampa, you can't have Tom Brady, you got to put in the backup. You know what I mean? Like for the Super Bowl, you know what I mean? It's not going to go well. And so that's what we were dealing with. And to lose by 30 stinks. But for me, it was just the feeling of not being in it. You know, it didn't feel like we were in that game. And the crazy thing is we're only down 10 at half, but it felt like so much more. Which is weird to say because you got but it was just the way it was going down, and you knew Bob wasn't going to get better at halftime. You know what I mean? Like your prospects didn't change. So that was a tough one, man. I remember not wanting to take my jersey. That was my last game. I remember not wanting to take my jersey off for a while, man. I remember I went back to the hotel with it on.
That is interesting. You mentioned that, just that having that feeling in games. It's hard to explain because I remember being in games where it's close. You know, we're 5 points, 4 points, 6 points, whatever, and you just feel like, man, we are getting killed right now. It's just
Our standards are different. Our standards are different. Like the thing that I remember being like most angry about is like when when they would run something we ain't never seen before.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it did happen a lot because we got scouted. We got, scouting reports were pretty thorough.
Oh,
but
yeah.
sometimes we would get caught napping or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember thinking, like, nah, y'all ain't doing that no more, man. Because you'd get so offended.
Yeah.
You'd get so offended. And like that, I didn't have that when I first got there. I didn't have that in high school.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted the ball. I wanted to run up and down and ball.
Yeah, right.
But then you get that competitive nature part of you where you're like, man, I worked too hard for this.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know, man. We got 6:30 practices.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I gotta have it today.
Yeah. So you left Duke and played in the NBA. Played a few different places overseas. What was your favorite city? Did you have a favorite city? Who had the best food?
Portland was all right. So I get to Portland first,
Yeah.
and I knew where it was vaguely.
Yeah.
But I didn't know nobody from Oregon. I had never known anybody who went through Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know anything about it. I had watched that team, the Trailblazers, lose to the Pistons in the finals in June.
Mm-hmm.
So they're losing June 20th. And then I got drafted on the 25th. So I knew all about the team, but I didn't know nothing about Portland in the state and the Northwest and living.
Yeah. That's completely different.
Man, that's a long flight.
Yeah.
And so I get there and I just realized that first of all, it's the only show in town, and no baseball, no football, no hockey. It's just us. And they were crazy about us, man.
Yeah.
And we were really, really good too. That's the other thing that really helps. I remember Coach K came and watched us play my second year. And I remember coming out of the locker room and he was right there. And I'm like, so what do you think? He's like, you guys are like racehorses. You guys, because we fill lanes, man, with big bodies, dude. And we had, the rule was first one down gets it. So there was no
be the first one down.
Yeah, there was no favoritism. It's just whoever's in the lead gets the ball. So the quickest you can turn and pivot, the better chance you had. But we had Jerome Kersey, who ran like a gazelle. Mm-hmm. We had Clyde Drexler, who ran like a gazelle. And we had Buck Williams, who could run. We had dudes who could run. And so I was very rarely the first one out there. But it was something to shoot for.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think Portland, because we were really, really good. I like being in Boston, too, because I got to start. Mm-hmm. And I got to play every night. Playing alongside Robert Parrish was probably the biggest honor of my basketball life. Mm-hmm. Getting to spend 2 years next to him and have him cover all my mistakes.
Yeah. That's definitely nice.
It was huge, man. And just like we're still friends to this day. And, you're a fan like I am. I watched him growing up. And when you watch Chief growing up, like he never spoke. He was expressionless every time you saw him. And then to go out like to dinner with him and have him be the loudest, funniest, most talkative dude, you're like, dude, this is not what I pictured. But to be that way, to be so great to me, on and off the floor. Reggie Lewis, God rest his soul, was on that team too. I was there the year he passed. So Boston has a special place because I was 3 hours from home, Yep. When you're all the way in Oregon and then they put you 3 hours from home, that makes a big deal.
That's nice, yeah. So you retire and you get into broadcasting. Was that something that you always had your mindset on post playing career? Yeah,
because when I was playing, I got a chance to do it.
Oh, okay.
So
that's
in
cool.
95, I'm with the Sacramento Kings, and it's the first half of the year. I think it may have been – it was probably January because I didn't have a lot of time to prep. And the All-Star is always like in mid-February. And they call the league office, this television station from overseas, calls this league off, the NBA office in New York and says, hey, any of the players in the NBA speak Arabic? And they're like, we got one.
One guy, yeah. I was going to say, could be many more than one.
Exactly. So I got the call. And the call was, hey, listen, we're going to be covering the NBA All-Star Weekend in Phoenix. Would you like to come down and be our second guy? Not the host, but the sideline guard, the sidekick. And I, absolutely. Do you know anything about TV? No.
Nope.
Would you be interested in learning? Absolutely. I said, as long as you guys have patience with me, I'll have patience with you guys, and we'll get through this, I fly down to Phoenix, All-Star games on Sunday, so I probably flew down Wednesday. And it was an Arabic company called Orbit, and they were all coming from Rome, Italy. And everybody made it over except for the host.
Oh, no.
Who was supposed to do all the talking. Right? So
of
now,
course.
hey, forget about what you have.
Just kidding. You got to do everything.
Yeah, what I mean? Instead of just being the sidekick and occasionally dropping in something, you got to carry it all now.
In Arabic, mind you.
In Arabic, mind you. Yes. So I just remember I had to interview Principal, was it Belding from Saved by the Bell? That's a TV show. Remember?
Yeah, so it's a little before me, man. It's a little before.
Yeah, but anyway, Saved by the Bell was a show. Principal, I never watched the show. I don't know who he was, but they're saying it's a popular show. You got to interview this guy.
Yeah.
I interviewed Cal Ripken.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and it was during that time when he was going for the record. Mm-hmm. So I remember going up to him and asking him, "Hey, would you mind sitting down with me?" First of all, he knew who I was, which was a trip.
Yeah.
Then he said, "Absolutely. Let's just not talk about the streak." I was like, "No problem. I don't care about it. We're going to talk about other things." You know what I mean? So we talked about. He sat with me for like an hour.
Oh, that's cool.
Which he didn't do anywhere near that with anybody else there. So that was good. But I was really bad, Andre. I was sitting out there in the middle of like a court outside, sweating my tail off. The flop sweat you get when you're nervous, trying to.
The
Phoenix Heat, man, and it is coming down. But here's why they called me back, because I know I was terrible. Because they get the reels nightly, and I know they're watching back in Rome. Go, this kid's useless. But what helped was. I was able to get all 24, 25 All-Stars, how many were there at the time, one by one to go up, introduce themselves and say, "Hi, I'm David Robinson, and you're watching Orbit TV. Hi, I'm Michael Jordan, you're watching, Orbit TV." I got every one of them to say that, and that's what made them hire me back.
Yeah.
And then I got better.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
They showed some patience with me, and they worked with me. And it mattered to me, so I wanted to improve.
Yeah.
And for a long time, from 95 to let's say 2004, I was doing it all in Arabic and occasionally sending like a reel over to America. But the problem is, when a person who's hiring here would get it and he'd read it and look at it, he don't understand.
Yeah, I don't know if you're saying something good, bad, or what.
Exactly. You don't know any. It's hard to tell.
Yeah.
So it was hard to kind of break in here and do it in English. And then finally I got my break in 2006, 2007 with the NBA, because I live here in northern New Jersey, and the NBA Entertainment's headquarters were 6 miles away. Mm-hmm. They've since moved down to Atlanta, but that's where they were. So for me, it was real convenient. And again, they put me on the first time. I was doing EuroLeague basketball. Mm-hmm. Because having played there, I could pronounce the European teams properly. So instead of saying like Panathinaikos, I could say Panathinaikos, and I could say Olympiakos, and and so that was my in. I was still awful. I was still sweating. You know what I mean? I was still stuttering, but that goes away after time. They kept hanging in there with me, and they started giving me more and more work. By the end, like within 2 years of working for them, I had my own radio show. I was doing the EuroLeague Game of the Week. Mm-hmm. And then they put me on the NBA set, and I got to start talking about NBA games, which is like the highest thing to do there. Yeah. So I progressed. And I got the bug after that. And I just, once the wheels started going, I'm like, I'm not bad at this, and I want to get better at it. And I think there's room for improvement. And it's kind of fun too. Yeah, because it keeps you around the game.
Right.
You and I are sitting at home watching these games anyway.
Yeah, may as well get paid to talk about it.
Yeah, man. I remember Charles Barkley told me, it was a great quote, and it's actually like on my Twitter thing. Got paid to play, now I get paid to watch.
Yeah.
Can you have it any better than that? I mean,
it's a good deal.
You know, I'm a lucky dude, man.
Yeah.
I put in the work, but I'm a lucky dude. I'm a lucky dude.
So eventually made your way up to Philly now, doing Philly games. Being a big yourself, how much fun is it watching Joel every night?
Well, that's what was great about when I got hired. Yeah, he hadn't even played. He was still injured back in 2015. So he was still coming off of that foot injury. But, like, I had watched him in college because my previous job for CBS was covering college. And that year was with him and Wiggins in Kansas.
Oh, yeah.
He had been hurt, so Joel missed some games. But the games I did see, it's like, man, if this kid is even half as good as I think he's going to be, we're going to be just fine watching him play. And then to see his progression, dude's bad, man.
Yeah.
He's a bad dude.
Yeah. And he's getting better. He's
getting
better,
man. And he looks like he's more serious this year. He looks like he's in better shape. The dude just looks like he's on a mission. So for me to be around that, when the rest of the league is firing up threes and got 5 stars out there, man. You know what I mean? Like, I feel blessed, man. I don't have to watch that crap for 82 games a year.
Y'all get a couple post-ups a game, man.
We have the most post-ups in the league.
It's not a whole lot of teams doing post-ups nowadays.
Nope.
Who else just got out there this year? Fellow Dookie, Seth Curry. Even holding it down for him up there?
Absolutely. Well, the thing is, man, and this is what breaks my heart, is because of COVID, we can't come close to him.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? So through his dad, like, I'm trying to get his number so I could just text him just to let him know. Because I know, like, when he had the COVID, he was at home. He was watching. Yeah. So he's hearing the commentary. He knows who I am, and he knows I'm one of the brotherhood, too. I just wanted him to know that, you know, I'm rooting for him, and if there's anything he ever needed, but they've separated us. You know, so all I can do is, like, wave from, you know, section 120. You know what I mean? Because it is what it is right now. But I'm anxious, man, that when everything hopefully gets back to normal sooner rather than later, that, because the cool thing is, CBS back in the day used to cover the D League, now the G League. So I've been out to Santa Cruz so many times to watch him play because they thought at the time that there was going to be the pipeline to get him to go to the Warriors and play with his brother, but he took a different path. But Nate Bjorkgren, who was the Indiana coach last night, he was the head coach at Santa Cruz. So the worlds, you know, our worlds, they're small.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So on your off nights when you're not doing Philly games, are there certain guys or certain teams that you're like, oh, they're playing tonight, I got to check them out?
LeBron, just because you don't want to miss anything he does. Luka, is another one that, you know, you don't want to miss what my man is doing. I'm trying to think if there's anybody else that really jumps out at me. Man, I'm curious about the Nets. You know, living up here, so I get to watch all their games. They're my local TV, you know, team, and so I'm curious to see how that experiment works because they ain't playing. They are not trying to play no defense.
No,
I mean,
very little.
They don't have anybody. They don't have anybody to play defense with, especially like they got rid of Jared Allen, so now there's nobody inside to protect the rim. So they're just trying to outscore people. And you and I come from a world where we don't have that approach. You got to mix in some stops, my man. You got to mix in some stops. For sure. And so I'm curious to see how that experiment, you know, pans out.
Yeah, that'll be interesting, especially come playoff time, because the defense definitely ratchets up a little bit come playoff time, and you got to be able to get a couple stops. Yeah,
when your shots aren't falling, what are you going to do?
Absolutely. All right, man. I feel like I'm taking up a lot of your time, but I appreciate it.
This is fun. I've been a big fan of yours, man, for a long time, and I know
man, I appreciate that.
So I have mad respect for you and your path, my man.
I appreciate that. But before I let you go, we got to get your all-time Duke starting five and a six-man. Got to win one game. Who are you going with? Be careful now, because, you know, I don't want you getting calls and texts from people that you left off the list.
Man, okay. That's a tough one because I've got favorites like at each position, but then you telling me like this is the one game that we have to win.
Gotta win a game.
Like, because I'm gonna pose a question to you. How do you choose between Johnny Dawkins and Bobby Hurley?
Hey,
That's who's in my head right now.
Yeah, you can't answer a question with a question, Oliver. This is your question.
All right. Bobby Hurley, J.J. Redick, Grant Hill, Elton Brand, Christian Laettner.
Ooh. All right, who you got coming off the bench for you?
Oh, man. Johnny Dawkins.
Okay.
Johnny Dawkins. Yeah.
So we got...
You got to have JD on there somewhere.
Yeah, he's OG, super OG. So let's see. You had Bobby, JJ, Grant, EB, Slate, and JD off the bench. Okay.
How'd I do?
I like that team. I think you.
Who else would you put at the 4? I put EB on the 4 because I was around when he was deciding, and I know like what Coach K told him. Coach K said to him, basically, they're going to double team you all year next year. You're not going to get better. You're too good for college basketball.
Yeah, right? Some guys are. Some guys are.
That's why EB's on their 4. Not because I see him every day.
Yeah, I'll get ready. Yeah, come on, man.
I was still separated. I don't even see him. So he won't even give me no love, even if he wanted to.
That's what's up. No, EB was a monster though. EB was a monster for sure. He was a problem. But I appreciate the time, Ala. Man, I had a lot of fun. So
Same, man. Same. I wish you all the best, Andre. Thank you so much, man.
Appreciate it, man.
Go Duke.
Yes, sir. Go Duke.